I got a DM the other day from a lovely girl asking for book recommendations, like asking for my favourite books, and I sent her a whole list and all of my reasons, and it made me realise that for all the time that I spend on YouTube talking about books, which is a lot of time, I never really get the chance to talk about my favourite books because I'm always talking about new books. So I thought today I would go through every single book that I have ever given 5 stars, from all of my time on YouTube, from before my time on YouTube, because I have favourite books that I haven't spoken about on here because I read them before I did YouTube. So I just thought this would be a fun opportunity to put all of my favourite books in one place and chat about them. I have, however, picked the exact worst time to film this video because I am losing my voice. I'm gonna try and speedrun these so quickly. You guys know me, that's not my forte. I'm not very good at speedrunning. Nonetheless, I'm gonna try. Because there are quite a few books. I have written a whole long list. They are in no particular order, other than, I guess, the order in which I remembered them. So I guess in some senses that is kind of an order. Make of that what you will. But we're going to go through them. There's a lot of literary fiction, but there's a few other genres. So these are all the books that I have ever given 5 stars. And we're going to go through every single one right now. Okay, starting strong with an author who, if you have ever been to this channel before, you will know I love. Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. Eliza Clark does female rage like nobody else. No one does it like her, and this book is the epitome of that. This book follows a photographer. It's this woman. She's very unlikable, which you will notice in this video is an absolute theme of my favourite books. I love unlikable characters. She sucks. She's not a nice person, but she is so interesting to watch. Her whole thing is that she photographs men that she deems not attractive and basically humiliates them. And it's a full in-depth character study of her doing that, but also kind of just her living her life. I can't really explain the plot of this book to you because it's very much an all vibes, no plot kind of a situation. But let me tell you, this book unlocked a whole category of books that I didn't know that I liked, which was very much character study, unlikable characters, messy literary fiction, women in their 20s, female rage, whatever that genre is called. This book was the book that made me realise that I liked that. So this book kind of paved the way for a lot of the other books you're gonna see in this video. Then, in a very different realm, we have The Long Walk by Stephen King. This is definitely my favourite of Stephen King's books. It's actually a book he wrote under Richard Bachman, his pen name, so it's a little bit different from his classic style. This one is a psychological dystopia, and it follows a group of boys. They are taking part in a competition called The Long Walk. It's almost like the Hunger Games, but way more psychological. It's a lot more introspective. It's not like crazy amounts of plot going on, but they're on this walk and you're following them as they keep going. They have to keep a certain pace and anyone who stops is shot. So that's kind of where the Hunger Games element comes in. It's like a last man standing kind of a situation, and you're following one character, Garrity, and you're kind of following his mindset throughout the walk, and as he gets more exhausted, the plot gets more, not confusing, but you're kind of following that mindset and you feel like you're in his mind. So as he is getting tired, exhausted, confused, you're feeling that as well. It's brilliant. It's such a simple but brilliant plot. Then Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This book is absolutely magnificent. There is a scene in this which I will never forget. It is breathtaking, heartbreaking, beautiful. We're following 2 people who make a games company, and you're kind of following the arc of them building up this business. It's also just a great niche genre that I really love, which is watching people like work on a goal, like a creative goal. That's like such a niche genre, but it's something that I absolutely adore, and this does it so perfectly. You will fall in love with these characters. It's kind of a love story, but not really. It's about all different types of love, like familial love, platonic love, kind of romantic love. There's all different types of conversations in there. You will fall in love with these characters, and then Gabrielle Zevin will break your freaking heart. Just warning you. And we have a book that I talk about a lot, Bunny by Mona Awad. This book, I say it every time, is an absolute fever dream, but it's a magnificent one. We're following a girl who goes to university. She is in a writing program with, it's just her and then like 5 or 6 other women, and all of the other women are very, very close. Some would say too close. They are in a cult, and she is adamant that she wants nothing to do with them until they invite her to a party, and she immediately goes. Immediately. And we're following her getting in with these girls and all of the absolute craziness that happens after that. It's very much a trust the process kind of a book. You're not really going to get answers. You're going to be confused at points. Trust the process. Mona Awad has got you. I thought this was fantastic. I loved it. Then we have My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I don't recommend this one lightly. It's a very difficult read because of the subject matter. We are following a girl who gets groomed by her teacher, and you're following that in all of the excruciating detail. This book shies away from absolutely nothing, but it is fantastically told. The character study is so complicated and nothing is 2D. Everything is so complicated is the only word that I can think of for it. But she explores this trauma in such a complicated way that it just feels completely shattering. But the writing is beyond beautiful. I really want to reread this book soon. Then probably the only YA book I imagine that will be on this list, we have A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. I have absolutely adored this story for the longest time. I've loved the play, I loved the movie. I finally read the book last year and it shattered my heart once again. I cried at every single version of this story that I have ever seen, and the book was no exception. This follows a young boy whose mum is in hospital doing treatment, and we follow him meeting a magical tree during his dreams. Stick with me. It is kind of a magical realism, and we follow this tree telling him stories, and we're kind of leading up to this final conversation. The tree says that the boy has something that he's not willing to admit, and the tree is trying to get him to admit this thing, and we're kind of leading up to that final conversation. Every time I hear this conversation, without fail, breaks me into pieces. This book is absolutely breathtaking, but it will make you sob. Next, we have Light by Michael Grant. This is the final book in the Gone series. I love the whole series, but I do think the final one is my favourite. Despite that ending, which I'm not going to go into again, but let me tell you, it broke my heart. It shattered me. I feel like there's a theme with the books that I like in this video. Anyway, this book follows a world in which all of the adults disappear. A dome appears above this, I guess, town, village, and all of the kids kind of end up in a Lord of the Flies situation, except with magical powers. It's a lot of fun and it has a little bit of everything, but you get such a complete town, a complete cast of characters. It's a very ensemble feel. All of those different perspectives make for such a real world, but it has everything. It's fantasy, dystopia, horror, there's little bits of romance. There really is a bit of everything, and I love this series. Another one that I would not recommend lightly, but is wonderful, A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I feel like we all know what this book is about, so I won't go into it too much, but we're following 4 men in New York. It is a full character study. Any trigger warning that you can think of is in this book. If you can think of it, it's there. Do check your trigger warnings. It explores everything in such graphic detail. You absolutely need to be prepared going into this book. It is also, I think, 800 pages. It's a very long book. Everything is explored and given space, and it's wonderful, and the writing is impeccable. And I really need to pick up another book by this author, but just be aware. I know everybody says it, but genuinely do be aware this book is harrowing. It messed with my head in a way that a book never has before. For like a week straight afterwards, I felt weird inside. Like I felt genuinely off from having finished this book. So just fair warning. Then we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is a book that I read for my Saltburn video. That was so long ago, oh my gosh. Reading books that give Saltburn vibes, and it absolutely does. We're following a cast of characters at drama school. I also went to drama school, so I felt very deeply connected to that side of the story, except no one got murdered at my drama school. That's how the story starts. Someone is murdered and our main character is in prison, I think, or he's just got out of prison for the murder. but then you are flashing back to what actually happened and you're kind of aware that maybe something more complicated happened. This book is riddled with Shakespeare. It is absolutely gorgeous. You don't have to know anything about Shakespeare, but I think if you have an interest in it, it will fascinate you even more. But I don't think you need to have an understanding of Shakespeare to enjoy this book. It is dark academia, character study gorgeousness. Then one of my favourite Taylor Jenkins reads, we have The Seven Husbands. I think there's another one on this list later as well. Was this my first book I read by her? Quite possibly. This is the book that I will recommend to literally anybody. Any singular person out there, I will recommend this book to them because I know they will love it. I recommended it to my mum and I said it's a historical romance, and she was like, that is not going to be my thing. And I said, trust me, she gave it 5 stars. This book is for everyone. I don't know why, it just is. We're following Evelyn Hugo, she's a actress. Oh my god, it's been so long since I read this book. She's like a really famous actress, and we're following her entire life. She's getting interviewed. We're following all of her different marriages, her entire life, everything that happened to her. The ending broke me into a million pieces. I will never stop thinking about how that felt reading that ending. Perfect on every level. As I say, would recommend to literally anybody. Then we have the entire works of Sally Rooney. And by that I mean Conversations with Friends, Normal People, and Beautiful World, Where Are You? I try every single time I talk about her books to pick a favourite. I cannot. I often think Conversations might be my favourite, but I think it was just the first one I read, and so it was my introduction to Sally Rooney. But I do love all of these books. Every single one is a 5 stars. I am yet to read Intermezzo. If you know, you know. I'm getting to it very soon. But all 5 stars. She does character study, complicated relationships, complicated dynamics like no one else. I love her writing. I am a Sally Rooney fangirl through and through. Get that tattooed on my forehead. I love her. Next, one that I talk about continuously. It was my favourite book of last year. I will never shut up about this book or this author. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. This is a book that I want to recommend to everybody, but I hold back. I physically hold myself back because I know that it's not for everybody, and I get it. I do get it. But equally, I don't get it. I love this book. I love this book so much. In this book, we are following a nameless protagonist, which gets me every time. I love a book with a nameless protagonist. She is deep in the throes of depression and she wants to spend an entire year sleeping. She is trying to take as much as physically possible to knock herself out, so she is in a constant state of sleep. And we're basically following a character study of her trying to do that. Almost the entire thing, if not the entire thing, is set in her apartment. A couple people kind of float in and out, but mostly it's just her in this space. Very little happens. I will warn you of that. Almost nothing happens, and yet it is one of the most engaging books I have ever read. I am absolutely obsessed with it, but I will say, if you don't like a character study, yeah, it's probably not for you. The character is also not particularly likeable. Honestly, no one in that book is particularly likeable. Again, an absolute bonus for me, but I know it's not for everyone. Then, in a very different realm, we have Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. If that last book was unlikable characters to a T, this book is likeable characters to a T. We're following Queenie, who she is on a break from her boyfriend, or I think she gets put on a break. I think it's his decision. And the entire book is basically her trying to deal with that. There's also a bunch of other things that happen to her, but that's kind of the catalyst that we're following. And it's very much messy 20-something fiction, but more likeable characters than some of the books that I've spoken about today. A big section of this book is about being a Black woman and the racism and the microaggressions that come along with that. And equally, this book is so funny and uplifting. I'm also pretty sure this book has just been made into a TV show because I saw an advert for it the other day. So I definitely want to watch that because the book was brilliant. Next, we have our first Lisa Jewell book gracing this list. We have The Family Upstairs. This is a thriller, but I say it all the time. I think Lisa Jewell does thriller with such a literary fiction feel because of the emotional depth she puts behind her characters. This one follows Libby, who has just inherited a house in Chelsea, like a really, really expensive, like £1 million house. And she's kind of learning there's some dark history there. She's learning that there were a bunch of bodies left behind in the house. And then I think you're flashing through 3 timelines. You've got Libby's timeline, the timeline of what actually happened, and I can't remember what the 3rd timeline was. But this was excellent, and it is actually a duology. The Family Remains is also magnificent. I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying this, that The Family Remains was actually kind of like a fan requested book, but it doesn't feel like one at all. I don't think there was intended to be a 2nd book, but Lisa Jewell is so brilliant at her job that it felt like there was always meant to be one. Even though it doesn't inherently need one, you can just read The Family Upstairs and crack on with your day. Like, it does answer your questions, but equally, I highly recommend getting to The Family Remains as well, because it's just such a brilliant duology. And you know what? While we're here, let's just carry on with the Lisa Jewell train with what is probably my favourite of all of her books. None of this is true. I listened to the audiobook of this, could not recommend the audiobook more. I think that is the way to read this story, and I never say that. We're following 2 women who are birthday twins, and that basically means that they were born on the same day, I think in the same hospital at the same time, and they meet randomly on like a birthday dinner. And one of them kind of becomes a bit obsessed with the other one. She sees the other one as having everything she wants in her life. And that woman runs a podcast, and so Josie, the first woman, asks to go on the podcast and basically tell her life story. So it's kind of them working on that project. That's why the audiobook is so great, because there are so many elements of like the podcast, and there's music. It's just really good. Trust me, listen to the audiobook. It moves so quickly. It is gripping as anything. It's very much unreliable narrator, which again is a trope that I love. I just think this book is magnificent, and I think it might be Lisa Jewell's best work. And I'm excited to read her new one coming out soon as well. Okay, then we have a recent 5-star. Oh, I'm really losing my voice now. Bear with me, I'm so sorry. We have Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This is a literary fiction, despite being marketed as a romance book, and I will never know why that decision was made. It's a literary fiction, kind of about a love triangle, but mostly it's about a woman who has just lost her mother, and it's her grappling with that. She does also meet 2 men, so there is kind of a love triangle element going on, but it's very much literary contemporary fiction, her grappling with her grief, but a more kind of hopeful message. Again, a bit more lovable characters. I think it's a great one if you're wanting to get into literary fiction, because some of these books on this list, as I've said, I love, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend to everyone. If you're wanting to get into literary fiction, try and pick this one up. Then an absolute 5-star classic. I talk about this book all the time. This is one of my favourite books ever. The Push by Ashley Audrain. This is technically a thriller. Every time I think about this book, I think of it as a literary fiction. We are following an exploration of motherhood, a woman who kind of hates her child. I think the themes and the way those themes are explored read to me like a literary fiction, but the pace, the things that happen, the plot is thriller. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, which is why I love this book so much. I absolutely flew through it. Then we have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I didn't really know what to expect going into this book, but I'll tell you this, I didn't expect a thriller. I don't know if it is technically a thriller, but it reads like one, because the pace at which I flew through this book was crazy. In this book, we are following a white author who has a friend who is an Asian author. That Asian author dies in a freak pancake accident. You have to read the book. And our white author steals her manuscript. She basically changes a couple of names, she changes some very basic bits, and then publishes it as her own. And the rest of the book is the fallout of that horrific decision. This main character sucks. I know I've said throughout this entire video that I love an unlikable character. We might have found the limit here. This character literally didn't have one singular redeeming quality. Not one. Reading this book is like watching a car crash. You don't want to look away. This book moves with such incredible pace, but equally has such amazing conversations. I am very excited to read more from this author. I do own Babel. I have been very intimidated to get to it, but nonetheless, Yellowface was an absolute 5-star for me. I flew through it, so it definitely makes me more excited to continue with her works. Then we have another Taylor Jenkins read. We have Carrie Soto is Back. We're following Carrie, who, again, potentially an unlikable character. I loved her. She definitely can be a little bit standoffish. She is very ambitious to a fault. You're following her as she is coming back to reclaim her world title. She has like a certain number of wins in a, I don't know, I don't understand tennis, in a competition. Someone is about to beat her record, so she's coming back out of retirement to get the record back. I have never cared so much about tennis in my life. Every single match, I was rooting for this woman so hard. I flew through it. I loved the main character. I was rooting for her so deeply. And then all of the other complicated bits outside of tennis in her personal life, I just adored. Probably my second favourite Taylor Jenkins read. I think The Seven Husbands might just tip it. I don't know, but I love both. Both are 5 stars. Then we have my most recent 5 stars on this list. We have The Nursery. I will never shut up about this book. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. This is a literary fiction about postnatal depression. It is another book a little bit like My Year of Rest and Relaxation. The entire thing is basically following this one woman. It's set in one apartment. It's very all vibes, no plot, and the vibes are bleak. The vibes aren't good, but I loved it. Following a woman who is in the throes of motherhood. She has just become a new mum and she is struggling with that, to say the least. The conversations in this book about motherhood, about how much her life has changed, about how much her husband's life hasn't changed in comparison, all of the complicated feelings, all of those conversations are absolutely fantastic. And then equally, this book shies away from nothing. It is horrific at points. It literally reads like a horror book at some points. I loved it. I will never shut up about that book. Then we have Fourth Wing. This was kind of probably the first fantasy book I ever read. Is that true? Probably. I just loved it. I had a great old time. I don't know what else to tell you. We all know the plot. It's about a girl. She goes into this training school. There are talking dragons. It's great. It's fun. It literally has the plot of 2 books put into one, which I loved. It moved so quickly. It was just a great book. I think it's a great book to get you into fantasy. I can't say what it's like if you've read 1,000 fantasy books, because I haven't. As I say, it was probably the first fantasy book I read, or the second. Like, I just got into fantasy. To be fair, I say just got into. I've still only read like 5 fantasy books. Nonetheless, I loved it. I had so much fun. Then our second Eliza Clark book on this list, we have Penance. So different from Boy Parts, but equally there are similarities. This book is a true crime, but it's not true. I can literally never explain this plot. It reads like a true crime documentary, but we're told at the start of the book that our narrator, our author, it's a pretend author, it's not Eliza Clark, it's a man, I can't remember his name. We're told that he potentially has been in trouble before for making up details, for lying. So the entire way through reading this book, we don't really know what's true and what's not. Again, unreliable narrator, love it. We're following the death of a girl and the 3 girls who killed her. I think it was 3, and they're called A, B, and C. And we're kind of following in depth the lead up to what happened. It's just absolutely fascinating. And again, really great conversations. And again, everyone in the book sucks. Everybody. Okay, a few more left. We have another very recent one. We have Shark Heart. I literally just spoke about this all over my channel, so I'm only going to touch on it briefly, but oh my goodness. It's a very weird story. We're following a man who is turning into a great white shark. He's also an actor. I loved all of that commentary. And we're basically following the story of somebody coming to terms with losing somebody they love, but equally the man himself coming to terms with losing his humanity. It's brilliant. The entire thing is told through vignettes, so there's bits that are like poetry, there are bits that are play extracts. It's very mixed media, so it's super bingeable, but equally heartbreaking. I wept. Next, I have Good Material by Dolly Alderton. This book is the story of a breakup, and it's told from a man in his 30s. And I thought that was a super unique perspective, because I've never read a breakup story from a man or from somebody in their 30s, and it was just comforting. Dolly Alderton is just a comforting person, a comforting writer. You get the whole story from his perspective, and then right at the end you get a little bit from the woman's perspective. And I do like that Dolly Alderton didn't make it the woman sucks and how could she ever have left him, he's amazing. It was a lot more complicated than that. There were bits where you were like, oh my god, he's so cute, I love him, and then bits where I was like, yeah, that wasn't ideal. And equally with her. And you can kind of tell that there is love there, but they're just not right together. And it's kind of that very human, very complicated thing of there wasn't necessarily this big one thing that was massive and wrong. It was just them realising that even though they've been together a long time, maybe it's not the right thing and it doesn't mean they should be together going forward. I just found it such a comforting read and I'm so excited to read Ghosts, her debut. I think that's kind of a similar thing, but equally that one is from the women's perspective. Okay, 5 left. Ellen Oliphant is completely fine. I am yet to come across a person who doesn't love this book. This is so widely loved. Everyone who reads this book loves it, and I was no exception. The character arc that we follow in this book, we start with a woman who hates her job, hates her life. Most of the people around her don't like her. And then you kind of get this complete peek behind the curtains of what her life is actually like, and you realise why she is the way that she is, and you just go on this complete journey with this character and she becomes the most lovable character you will ever read about. I don't really want to talk too much about the plot of this book. There's a very heavy plot. It's not as character study as some of the books that I've spoken about today, but I think the blinder you go into this book, the better. There is so much to discover, and if you read the blurb of this book, it gives you nothing. It gives you literally nothing. So I'm giving you nothing. Sorry, but that is the best way to read this book. Then I have The Guest by Emma Cline. This is absolutely back to my classic unlikable characters, all vibes, no plot. We're following Alex, I think, and she is floating through life. Her whole thing is that she has no money, no house, no friends, and she is literally living day by day. She manipulates people to get what she wants. So if she needs somewhere to stay, she will just manipulate someone to get it. She kind of sucks as a main character, but it is so fascinating to read about. And you're literally watching her meander her way through life with no real purpose, no goal. It doesn't really go anywhere because you're literally just watching her meander around. But the character study, man. The character study. I love Emma Cline's writing, and specifically I love how much she trusts the reader. She allows things to be subtle. She doesn't push things in your face. She says, this is what is going on. If you pick up on it, great. If you don't, well, there you go. I've read 2 of her books and both of them do that. Then we have Cleopatra and Frankenstein. This book follows a younger woman, I think she's in her 20s, and an older man in his 40s, I believe. They rush into a very, very quick marriage, and then we're following the impacts of that marriage. Every other chapter is told from a side character's perspective, and then you never come back to them. It's a super unique writing style. It's a little strange at the start. It takes you a minute to get into it. But I think when you get your head around it, it is absolutely grand. The side character might be a friend of Cleo's or Frank's sister or like somebody they work with, and then you never come back to them. You get all of the impact that Cleo and Frank and their marriage and how tumultuous it is. You get all of that impact on that character and then you just move on and you never come back to them. They might appear very distantly, but that's all you're getting on that character. And I just thought that writing style was fascinating. And Coco Mellors, she knows how to write a character study. Again, a lot of unlikable characters, a lot of them. I am really losing my voice now, but we have 2 books left. A Bright Ray of Darkness by Ethan Hawke. This book follows an actor who has just made his Broadway debut in a Shakespeare play. Can't remember which one of the tragedies. I want to say Macbeth. Can't remember. He has also just been in a massive scandal for cheating on his wife. And it's kind of following those 2 storylines. It's very much about rehearsing a Shakespeare play. And as an actor, all of that stuff was super interesting. But equally, it's about the impact on his mental health, his family, that this scandal has had. It is completely fascinating. It's a tiny, tiny little book. I love the title. It's one of my favourite titles of all time. Highly recommend. And last but not least, The Things We Do to Our Friends by Heather Derwent. I struggle to talk about this book without comparing it to Bunny. I do it every single time that I talk about this book, but they give me similar vibes, so I will continue to do it. This book follows a woman at, I think it's Edinburgh University. She's got quite a dark past. She comes to this university, she falls in with this group of friends, and it's kind of the crazy, somewhat illegal things that she does to keep up with this group of friends and how she gets sucked into it. It does give Bunny vibes, but it's slightly less confusing, like it's more coherent, you know what's going on. I found this book when I was thrifting in Edinburgh when I was living there, and I picked it up on a bit of a whim. I'd never heard of it because the title and the cover drew me in, and yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited to read her new book, which is called A Sharp Scratch. That comes out quite soon. I'm gonna read that ASAP. And we are done. I feel like I've probably missed some books. I must have. These were all the ones that I could think of when I was going through my Goodreads. I did pull the list together quite quickly, but I think this is all of them. There might be some that used to be 5 stars and I kind of downgraded in my mind, or equally the opposite. Sometimes books get hyped up in my mind after the fact. Sometimes they were like a 4.5 in my mind, and then the more and more that I think about them, they just become a 5-star over time. Either way, every single book that I've just spoken about, love them so much. If you've read any of them, let me know, or if I have maybe inspired you to pick one up, please let me know your thoughts. I'd love to chat about them. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and please like the video, it makes such a big difference. I love you. Hope you have a brilliant rest of your day. Goodbye!